Keep listening for This Just In from Outdoors, environmental news from the Monterey Bay, only on KZSC Santa Cruz.
KZSC.
Now, young fellas, been having a lot of fun around here today, haven't you? You know what makes this all possible? This forest around us. We should all be thankful for our forest.
You're tuned into This Just In from Outdoors. Thanks. May the 4th be with you. Today we hear about a non-plastic packaging alternative for berry growers, which was invented locally. And we meet the People of Color Sustainability Collective at UC Santa Cruz. Plus headlines, a calendar of events, and more. Stick around.
This Just In
From Outdoors.
As of this past Tuesday, May 1st, the City of Santa Cruz has adopted a Stage 1 water shortage alert for all citizens. This is an attempt to maintain water storage in our city's only drinking water reservoir, Loch Lomond. An increased need for water supply for local fish habitats, as well as recently low levels of rainfall, have led to reduced water availability. The restrictions require citizens to avoid activities like landscape watering, pavement washing, and pool filling between the hours of 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Local businesses will only be able to provide water when it is requested by customers. Those who are found to be ignoring the alert will be assisted in fixing their mistake, but continual offenses will lead to fines with a minimum of $100 and up to $500. This shortage alert is in effect until further notice.
A new Redwoods park in Los Gatos broke ground on Tuesday, May 1st, according to the Santa Cruz Sentinel. The property is known as the Bear Creek Redwoods Open Space Preserve and consists of 1,432 acres of redwood forest, oak woodlands, and meadows. Located in the hills west of Highway 17, across from Lexington Reservoir, the land is now home to mountain lions, black-tailed deer, coyotes, bobcats, birds, bullfrogs, and dozens of other species. In 1999, the Open Space District and Peninsula Open Space Trust bought nearly 1,100 acres of the land for $25 million. The land sat untouched for years until voters approved Measure AA, a $300 million bond for the district in 2014, and the money was available to remove the buildings and build trails. Now that they have the funding, staffing, volunteers, and partners, they can begin working on the land and make it available to the public. Construction crews will build 6 miles of trails for hiking and horseback riding, along with interpretive signs and a 50-car parking lot along Bear Creek Road. Construction will occur before a grand opening to the public next spring. Construction will occur in 2 phases until 2026, as part of the $35 million plan. During the second phase, beginning in 2020, a multi-use trail will be built for mountain bikers to use. The land used to be the site of Jesuits' classrooms, dormitories, and a chapel, and was the site of Alma College from 1934 to 1969. The remaining buildings left from Alma College will be demolished, except for the chapel and library, during the second phase of work between 2020 and 2026.
UC Santa Cruz has several guidebooks of the flora and fauna on campus, from spiders, birds, to fungi. Recently, UCSC has published a new guidebook on plants. The book was written by UCSC alum and naturalist Natalie Martin. Illustrations were done by Brett Bell, also UCSC alum and naturalist illustrator. Natalie Martin tracked down and identified over 180 vascular plant species on campus and made a detailed guide to help others identify UCSC plant species in her book, Field Guide to Plants of UC Santa Cruz. Field Guide to Plants of UC Santa Cruz has detailed notes on identification like habitat, bloom period, images, and much more. All of these species can be found on campus. The book is entirely in color with detailed photography and illustrations. The book can be purchased at the Bay Tree store on campus.
As reported in Good Times, Santa Cruz will soon experience an influx of 250 bright red Ebikes, thanks to Jump, a bike share company now owned by Uber. The bikes are equipped with pedal assist battery-powered motors that make the ride easier. E-bikes such as these generally run for $2,500, but the Santa Cruz editions will be available for rent by the hour or monthly. Riders can reserve and pay for them on a mobile app or website and pick them up from any of the 27 locations across the city. Some community members have expressed concern about the safety of having pedal assist bicycles become common in areas such as West Cliff Drive, due to their ability to reach 20 miles per hour. However, many feel that a shift from car use to bicycle use would be beneficial both for city traffic and environmental concerns. The fleet will arrive in conjunction with the upcoming Santa Cruz Bike Week starting on May 4th.
Joseph Klein has this next story on a plastics alternative for berry packaging that's being created right here in the Monterey Bay, home to the largest berry company in the world, more than $1.1 billion in annual berry production, and 90% of all the raspberries grown in the world.
Sambrailo Packaging, an agricultural produce packaging company based in Watsonville, was the first to produce plastic clamshells used for berry packaging. Recently, Sambrailo has taken their packaging a step further with Readycycle, an alternative to the plastic clamshell. I spoke with Sarah Lozano, head of marketing, to find out more about Readycycle and the company's viewpoints on sustainability.
Readycycle is our newest packaging category that we launched last year during the California season, and it is our sustainable packaging solution and plastic packaging alternative. Probably the most familiar plastic packaging, if you think about it in agriculture, would be the clamshells. So a 1 pound clamshell, 2 pound clamshell, or a 6 ounce clamshell for raspberries or blackberries. The clamshell itself is fully recyclable, but once there's added components like a label, the adhesive, there's usually a top label, right, for branding and marketing purposes for the grower or for the supermarket, if it's a private label. And then there's also the UPC, which is on the bottom, okay? And then for like a raspberry, blackberry, or clamshell, there's usually a pad that's inserted, and that pad is inserted with hot melt glue, and then it's a poly and paper pad that's applied, and that's usually to soak up the juices. Those components contaminate the recycle stream for the PET clamshell itself. So long story short, those added components make the clamshell not recyclable.
So you've kind of found a way to package berries by having all the necessary components that you'd want in packaging and then at the same time making it recyclable.
Exactly.
It seems to me that you're giving the consumer a preference on like whether they want to buy a product that is better for the environment or if they want to buy a product that is worse for the environment. Do you think that consumer preference is the most effective means of environmental activism, or is it more prudent that society focuses on political policy to accomplish such goals?
I think it's going to take twofold in order for us to make it a real change. And I always think about how well Santa Cruz County did with the plastic bag ban in stores. And that really kind of came down from our state legislation and kind of trickled throughout multiple different counties, right? I think that the consumer push is first in regards to what change they'd like to see in society in general, and in the supermarket and produce, in the produce section. We hear more and more people wanting to have less plastic in the produce aisle. When we started working on Readycycle 3 years ago, we started with the consumer mindset first and the consumer lifestyle that is not only here in Santa Cruz County, but what consumers are looking for when they purchase any product. It goes beyond just what the product is. They want to know about the brand. They want to know what that brand is doing. They want to know what has that brand done beyond its product. For us, we wanted to be able to give a solution to the growers because the industry has been in the plastic, PET clamshell for many years now, and we haven't revolutionized it. And because we've always been pioneers in packaging, we said, why don't we start with something that the consumer is asking for rather than what the industry is asking for? Because the industry is not asking for this right now. The industry doesn't necessarily want, this monumental change. It would be a huge shift. But I think that our community wants this change, and I think more and more consumers want this change, and they're more than ever, they are honing in on the environmental causes that are around us, and plastic pollution is huge for us. It's not just here, it's everywhere. It's global. So as we decided to roll out Readycycle, the consumer was at the forefront. And we wanted to make sure that the consumer knows about it. We want there to be a retail alignment, which is the supermarket alignment, and the grower to support it. So we kind of worked our way backwards. And historically, we've always started with the grower first. And with Readycycle, we kind of flipped it a little bit and started thinking about what does the consumer need? There's so much confusion also about recycling. We wanted to make this something that when a consumer picks this basket up, they know exactly what to do with it.
For me personally, I really love the taste of strawberries, but I find a moral dilemma when I want to buy strawberries because I just think about all the plastic that is used and disregarding all the intersectionality that goes into that, how, like some farmers don't have choices. Some farmers can't use ASD type methods or other methods that get away from plastics. The problem is that the consumer does have a preference on that. The consumer does have a choice. I mean, strawberries aren't a staff of life. So how can a consumer justify, when thinking about it in terms of sustainability, buying strawberries and supporting that industry?
That's a great question. The strawberry industry has been so well established, and there's so many practices that have been rooted into the industry for years. And I think as any consumer, you kind of look at sustainability as there's so many different components that go into being completely sustainable. You have to ask yourself which one of those sustainable, I guess, priorities or pillars can you accept or can you not accept? Because there's going to be, I think we are going to see shift. We've fortunately seen some shift with our growers towards Readycycle about saying, hey, you know what? I can't convert all of my volume, but I can convert some of my packaging volume over to Readycycle because I want to give it a shot. Yet at the same time, I still have orders I need to fulfill, and that market specifically has asked me to put it in my existing PET plastic clamshell. I think that if we keep seeing more progressive changes like that, it's not an overnight switch, but it's, hey, you know what? I can convert this field. I can convert this ranch and this volume that's coming from this ranch, and I'm going to pack it in Readycycle. Or I might try different sustainability practices here. Instead of using the plastic mulch film, maybe they'll try something else for that ranch. And then as it evolves, maybe they'll be able to progress more and more ranches over to fully sustainable practices. You got to look at the grower, and I think consumers are more in tune with which growers they support rather than, and I think farmers markets is a huge drive of that, right? So you can connect with the farm, you can connect with the growing practices, you can learn more about what goes into their growing practices when you get that farmer interaction. And growers create these followings from the farmers markets or from independent markets, independent grocers that really dive into that and say, hey, what are you doing different than the other berry growers of the world? And as soon as I think people start learning about that, maybe that would be a great shift to learn more about the sustainability practices that growers are able to practice.
The People of Color Sustainability Collective is working to make UCSC a leader, not just in mainstream sustainability, but also environmental justice, in recognition of changing demographics on campus and pressing ecological challenges. Sarah Marshall interviewed interns and supporting faculty of the collective to learn more about the history, goals, and future of this initiative. Rebecca Rosser, the director of the American Indian Resource Center, and Flora Liu, faculty member in environmental studies and provost of College 9 and 10, spoke about why the collective was created. Rebecca Rosser.
So the roots of the initiative, so we consider it an initiative, and it was started because up here at the Ethnic Resource Centers, students that were majoring in environmental studies or other related majors were sharing some of their struggles in the classroom environment and in conversations that they were having with fellow students, and expressing to us that there was a lot of insensitivity and lack of appreciation and acknowledgement of the contributions that people of color make to the sustainability movement. And Flora, who's worked very closely with us from the very beginning, got on board, and she can share about that. And Elita Erickson from the Sustainability Office also got on board when she heard some about what had happened, and really has been committed from the very beginning.
Flora Lou.
And we were really adamant from the beginning that this had to be an initiative that was not relegated to a top-down sort of committee, that we wanted to incorporate and have students, really involved, that we wanted to acknowledge the work of the Ethnic Resource Centers, of the Sustainability Office, and also the colleges, because these are often these sort of spaces where students, a lot of their co-curricular learning really happens.
Rebecca Rosser.
And I think an important part of the POCSC experience is that students can intern and work on our projects, our workshops and guest speakers and our programming in general. And that's a really rare opportunity for students to have that direct engagement with some of these really, heavy hitter, right, folks that are out there doing the work, folks that are Native, folks that are people of color from across many different communities. Mm-hmm. And we've done some amazing programming. But there's just been so many opportunities for the students that are interning for POCSC to actually engage one-on-one with folks. And that I think is truly inspiring, because they get to hear firsthand how people choose to make these things their career, these types of issues, can transition them into careers that allow them to do the work after college.
Valeria Paredes, Steph Hernandez, and Leanne Utsumi are interns at the collective, and they each described in their own words what they think the goals are of the People of Color Sustainability Collective. Valeria Paredes.
I guess one of the main goals of POCSC would be to create the environmental and sustainable movement, specifically on campus, more inclusive of different narratives, right? I think that in every event that we do, that's one of our main goals, because it's tied to retention, right? Especially because the environmental and sustainability movement are, something that the university prides itself in. But where is all of that when there's not the representation that's needed, right?
Steph Hernandez.
To expand from just sustainability or environmentalism being purely about technology and being based on consumerism, so you have to buy this brand in order to be sustainable, or you have to install solar panels into your house, you have to buy a Prius in order to be sustainable. But a lot of these things are not attainable by all people. So I think just kind of highlighting the things that people of color have been doing for centuries and for generations that are sustainable practices but aren't viewed as sustainable just because of, mainstream sustainability. So I think that that's another thing, more of that inclusive sustainability that we talk about a lot. That's part of our mission statement as well.
Leanne Utsumi.
Creating more dialogue on what people of color have contributed and continue to contribute in their everyday lives to sustainability, and making that conversation more inclusive and creating a safer space on campus. And then kind of I would say that we kind of are trying to create a model so that we can take it, or so that other people can also take it off campus and kind of expand this to make in general the environmental movement and the sustainability movements more inclusive, and talk more about environmental justice also.
Anelia, a fourth-year student, spoke about what she's gained as an intern at the collective.
As an intern, I've learned a lot about the contributions that people of color have played in the sustainability movement, whether it was really shaped that way or not. And as Steph mentioned, there's a lot of things that have been happening for millennia, and a white person came around and renamed it, and now it's the hip thing to do or whatever, and it's something that is praised, but it's been happening. People have already been doing it.
Flora Liu reflects on the achievements of the POCSC in the first few years and the ambitious plans the collective has in mind for the future.
It's in its third year, and in the first 2 years, we have won the Chancellor's Diversity Award. We were recognized at the CHESI Best Practices Award at the California Higher Education Sustainability Conference in Santa Barbara last summer, and so it's gotten off to a really, really amazing start. But where it needs to go is to really, in my opinion, have the institutional support, the permanent funding to be able to support this initiative moving forward. That it gets to a point where, we have been able to, through our efforts and our grant writing and our hard work, to reach out to anonymous donors and these other opportunities, where if the institution really wants us to be able to thrive and to be sort of a permanent initiative that will bring them that kind of like really positive buzz and recognition at a national level, we need that financial support, and we need it to be something that is permanent, that would enable us to have the staffing to be able to put on the programs that we put on, to support the students, and to do the research that we do.
Rebecca Rosser.
There's tremendous opportunities here, right? But they may not be realized unless we have that certainty, and that, so we're not thinking about we have to race around to find funding, and we can actually focus on the kinds of things we'd like to do. Curriculum is one. I think we could create some really amazing workshops that we could actually share with other campuses so that they can start programs on their own, because we get asked about that a lot, and we have such stellar students on the team. And I think the other thing that students have talked about is broadening the ways in which students can engage. So we have a set of interns that I supervise, but it's very difficult for me to think about, how do we expand it and keep it manageable and make it a rewarding experience for everybody. So we are in the process of posting the position for the coordinator, and that person will get hired and come on board for 2 years, and hopefully in that 2 years we'll be able to really see things move forward in the way that we're talking about.
Flora Liu.
And I think for our campus, just recognizing that to move forward, that we're a Hispanic serving institution, that our student demographics, people talk all the time about how our demographics are changing. There are so many issues that are socio-ecological that are really confronting our community. Issues of livability, of cost, of housing, of land use, of climate change. What that's going to require are students, faculty, staff, and administrators that really are clear about how do we codify sustainability? How are those definitions of sustainability drawing upon the really rich experiences and areas of expertise of everyone? Not presuming that there's just mainstream sustainability and that we're limited to just that worldview, but that our students that come from immigrant families, from people from all these different international students, they all have so many divergent, complementary, insightful understandings of how can people be in a place and sustain that place and thrive, right? And so our focus, our emphasis is to be able to bring these voices at the helm, to challenge and be really clear about where a lot of mainstream environmental thought has come out of, which is, we do multiple training certificate programs in diversity and environment here on campus for staff and faculty, and we talk about how there's like a really, frankly, a very dark history of some environmental movement that is blatantly racist. It's extremely ethnocentric and is really classist, right? And we sort of bring that to light because I think it's important for people to understand the history, to confront it, and to recognize that really liberatory element, to decolonize our curriculum and sort of ways in being on this land, and to support voices of students of color, indigenous students, underrepresented students of all forms, is what is absolutely pivotal to move us forward as a campus.
Rebecca Rosser.
I want to be sure that I include the fact that we coined a phrase in our research, inclusive sustainability, and that was a really exciting place to arrive at, because I think it's it really, in a nutshell, describes what it is we're intent to do with the People of Color Sustainability Collective. So it's very special, and we've done so much in such a short amount of time. I just know it can really can really be something amazing on this campus.
The People of Color Sustainability Collective has some upcoming public events for anyone who is interested. The Seeds for Feeding Yourself will take place on Wednesday, May 16th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the UC Santa Cruz Women's Center. The Ama Mutsun speaker series comes to UCSC Cervantes and Velasquez conference room on Saturday, May 19th at 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the Strawberry and Justice Festival takes place on Thursday, May 24th from 4 to 6 p.m. at UCSC's Hay Barn.
This spring, the work of over 20 artists will be featured in the Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History exhibit, The Art of Nature. Today, from 4 to 7 p.m., the museum will be open for First Friday, where you can meet these artists and see live scientific illustration demos for free. They are located at 1305 East Cliff Drive and are open Tuesday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. and weekends from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Bike Week starts May 4th through the 12th and will host a variety of events every day throughout the week. For a list of events, go to ecoactbike.org. That is ECOACTBIKE.org.
On Saturday, May 12th, an introductory workshop on garden herbalism will be led by Darren Huckle at the UCSC farm. The workshop will be held from 9:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. For more information and to register, visit tinyurl.com/2018workshops. Saturday is also International Migratory Bird Day. Across 40 countries, 1,200 events will be taking place celebrating and working towards conserving over 5,000 bird species. A free birdwatching tour through Upper Struve Slough Trailhead in Watsonville will be hosted by Watsonville Wetlands Watch from 10 a.m. to noon. It is both bilingual and wheelchair accessible. On Sunday, May 13th, Elkhorn Slough will also be hosting a migratory bird celebration from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., including tours, arts and crafts, scavenger hunts, and interactive displays. For more information on this event and more, visit their website at elkhornslough.org/calendar. That's ELKHORNSLOUGH.org/calendar.
Thanks for tuning into this Just In From Outdoors. Check out our stories and past shows online at newsfromoutdoors.org. I've been your host, Valerie Hada. Our headlines were produced by our new reporters, Joseph Klein, Sarah Marshall, and Malia Spooner. The interview with Sambrailo was produced by Joseph Klein. Sarah Marshall produced the piece on the People of Color Sustainability Collective. The calendar of events was produced by Malia Spooner and Joseph Klein. Thanks again for listening. We'll be here next Friday at 5:30 p.m. for another edition. Until then, we'll see you outdoors.
In its 50th year, KZSC is working hard to become an essential source for local news in the Monterey Bay. For a 10-minute review of local news, tune in to KZSC's Thursday morning news report at 8 a.m. Our new, all-volunteer, nonprofit newsroom brings you the latest from Monterey Bay area communities, with a special focus on local government. Tune in to KZSC News, local news from the Monterey Bay on Thursdays at 8 a.m. If you miss one of our podcasts at 8 a.m. on Thursday, you can find every episode archived online and subscribe to all of our news and talk show podcasts at kzsc.fm/talk.
Please stay tuned for the Pacifica Evening News, which airs on KZSC Santa Cruz every night at 6 p.m.
Just bees and things and flowers. Just bees and things and flowers. Sunshine.
Now, young fellas, been having a lot of fun around here today, haven't you? You know what makes this all possible? this forest around us. We should all be thankful for our forest.
This just in.
From outdoors.